I never thought the most catastrophic thing I'd do on this godforsaken outpost was brush a tail. Not press the wrong button, not set fire to the lab microwave, not even insulting the commander's cooking. No. The end of my quiet, lonely existence started with one furry flick that slipped past my hand during medical duty. The feline woman was already glaring at me, and trust me, when someone with fangs and slitted eyes gives you that look, you feel it in your spine. She was a soldier, built like a predator sculpted by evolution to survive places where humans wear suits just to breathe. And me? A medic with bad posture and a sarcastic streak. I was just wrapping gauze around her arm when my fingers brushed the thick fur of her tail. An accident. A slip. A tiny moment. But the reaction? Catastrophic. Her ears snapped forward. Her pupils blew wide. Her tail froze like a steel cable. I thought I'd hit a nerve or cause pain. My training kicked in. I started apologizing, babbling about numbness and circulation. But she didn't hiss. She didn't snarl. She said one word, low and certain, like a judge delivering a sentence. Tail mate. I blinked. Tail what? The other feline soldiers in the room gasped like I'd just proposed in front of a cathedral. Whispers broke out instantly. Some covered their muzzles to hide laughter. Others gave me looks like I'd just crossed the point of no return. Congratulations, one muttered in a tone far too amused. I what? No. Wait. Hold on. I stumbled back, hands up. I was wrapping a wound. That's it. That's all. Nothing else. The feline woman, still seated, stared at me with a mixture of shock and pride. You brushed my tail, she declared, slow, deliberate, as if explaining the obvious to a child. You touched what only mates may touch. I wanted the floor to swallow me. It was an accident. There are no accidents. Her voice carried the weight of someone quoting scripture. A tail does not brush itself against a human's hand without destiny guiding it. Destiny? I'd been trying not to sneeze from all the fur in the air. Laughter spread through the room. One soldier snorted. Once you brush a tail, you can't just walk away. Another chimed in. He's stuck now. Poor furless thing doesn't know what he's done. Heat climbed my face. Listen, I'm human. We don't. Our tails are non-existent. This means nothing. The feline woman stood, towering over me, tail swishing dangerously. Her fangs flashed in a grin that was half menace, half satisfaction. To you, maybe. To me? You are mine. The word mine echoed through the medbay like a gavel. And before I could protest further, she closed the distance and looped that tail around my waist like a living rope. My breath caught. The others whistled and hooted like bar patrons at a bad comedy show. I tried wriggling free. Her grip only tightened. The sensation wasn't unpleasant, warm, firm, strangely intimate. Which only made it worse. Okay, I stammered, keeping my voice low. Funny prank. Let go. Not a prank. She purred, the sound vibrating in her chest. Tailmate bond sealed. I swear, every syllable was dripping with innuendo I hadn't signed up for. By the time I left the medbay, my so-called patient was walking right behind me, tail wrapped around my hip like a leash no one could see but me. My coworkers pretended not to notice, which only made their smirks louder. Is this permanent? I asked as we walked the corridor. Yes, she said simply, as if I'd asked if water was wet. No. Look, humans have dating, and talking, and consent, and sometimes even flowers. You brushed my tail. That is consent. I nearly tripped over my own boots. No! That is medical malpractice at best. She tilted her head, ears twitching, voice dangerously calm. Do humans brush tails casually then? I rubbed my face. We don't have tails. Her grin widened. Then you must treasure the rare chance to touch one. My brain short-circuited. How do you argue with logic that isn't logic at all but feels like it's winning anyway? By nightfall, I thought maybe she'd get bored. Maybe she'd wander back to her unit and laugh about the clueless human. Instead, I crawled into my bunk only to wake up with a heavy warmth around my waist. Her tail. Again. She had slipped into my quarters without a sound, curled beside me like it was the most natural thing in the universe. I whispered, "You're kidding me." She opened one eye, gleaming in the dark. "Tailmates do not sleep apart." My pulse hammered. "We've known each other for 6 hours. Her tail squeezed slightly, like punctuation. "That is 6 hours too long apart." I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to deny how oddly comforting the weight of her tail felt holding me down, like a living promise I never agreed to. But all I managed was a groan, muffled into my pillow. Somewhere in the station, my coworkers were probably taking bets on how long I'd last. And honestly, I wasn't sure myself. Because when I finally drifted off to sleep, tail still wrapped tight, the last thought buzzing in my head wasn't how to escape. It was the terrifying realization that maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to. If you've ever had a shadow you couldn't shake, multiply that by 10, add claws, a tail with the grip of a boa constrictor, and a constant low purr vibrating behind your ears. That was my life now. Everywhere I went, she was there. I went to the lab. She stood behind me, arms folded, tail occasionally brushing my chair. Mess hall? She sat across, eyes fixed, glaring at anyone who dared approach. Even when I tried slipping into the bathroom, she waited outside the door, tail tapping impatiently. Privacy had become extinct. The station crew noticed. Oh, they noticed. Subtlety was not her strength, and humans are terrible at hiding amusement. A colleague coughed into his tray when her tail snaked around my waist in the cafeteria, and someone muttered, "Guess he's got a tale to tell." I wanted to crawl under the table. She, however, preened like a queen flaunting her prize. And God's help me, she had no concept of personal space. She leaned close, sniffed my coffee, and frowned. "You drink bean water like medicine. Why torture yourself?" "It keeps me awake," I muttered. "You could nap. Or I could purr for you." She said it with a straight face, like offering a blanket. The table of humans nearby nearly choked holding back laughter. Later, in the showers, she demanded to know why humans wash so often. "Your skin has no fur, yet you scrub twice a day. Are you trying to erase yourself?" I gritted my teeth. "It's called hygiene. Maybe you've heard of it?" Her whiskers twitched. Tailmates should not insult one another's rituals. Every exchange felt like walking on a tightrope above a pit of innuendos. She wasn't malicious, she was dead serious. And that made it worse. Because when she leaned in, eyes narrowed, tail curling around my wrist, I couldn't tell if she was threatening, flirting, or both. Probably both. I tried reason. I tried explanation. I even tried a translator to bridge the cultural chasm. Big mistake. "This is a misunderstanding," I told the device. "The touch was accidental. It meant nothing." The translator chirped the message in her language. She listened, expression unchanging, then leaned close. "If you truly meant nothing, then you are dishonorable." "That's not what I said." She sniffed me, inhaling like a sommelier judging wine. Her ears flicked back, and her lips curled in a grin. "Your scent says otherwise." I shut off the translator. It was only making things worse. Coworkers weren't helping either. One afternoon, a human technician asked if I wanted to grab lunch. Just lunch. Friendly, harmless, a chance to feel normal again. She never got the chance to finish the invitation. My feline shadow stepped between us, tail arched, claws half out. "He brushed my tail first," she growled. The poor tech turned pale and bolted. I buried my face in my hands. "You can't just say things like that." She tilted her head. "Is it untrue?" "That's not the point." "It is the only point." That night I found her sprawled across my bunk like she owned it, tail flicking with smug contentment. I thought about sleeping on the floor, but the idea of explaining why I had no bed in the morning seemed worse. So I squeezed in beside her, muttering curses under my breath. She purred. "See? Perfect fit." I refused to admit she was right. Days passed in this absurd rhythm. She invaded my lab, sniffed my equipment, scared off anyone who came near. When I tried working, she asked endless questions about human tools. Why do you need fire to cook? Why do you build chairs when the floor exists? Why cover your skin with cloth if it already sheds no fur? Each question made me feel more alien than her. But then there were moments, damn it, moments I didn't hate. Like when she tried coffee for the first time, spat it out, and declared it poison while I laughed so hard I nearly spilled mine. Or when she swatted at a dangling wire like an oversized house cat, then pretended she meant to do it. I caught myself smiling more often, even as I told myself it was just nerves. Still, the clinginess was unbearable. I needed space. I needed to breathe without a tail wrapped around me. I tried reasoning one last time, late at night, whispering while she dozed against my shoulder. You don't understand, I murmured. Humans, we're not like this. We take time. We ask, we talk, we... Her tail squeezed gently, cutting me off. She murmured in her sleep. Tailmates don't ask. They just know. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. This wasn't what I signed up for. But the thought of pulling away, of waking her to tell her she was wrong, for reasons I couldn't name, it felt harder than just letting the tail stay where it was. The outpost had become a circus. Rumors spread. Bets were placed. The humans called me Mr. Tailmate, behind my back. The felines treated me like I'd joined their family. And through it all, she never wavered, eyes sharp, tail coiled, always close enough that her warmth brushed against me. I told myself I was miserable. I told myself I wanted freedom. But when she leaned against me in the mess hall, glaring at anyone who dared look twice, a traitorous part of me felt safe, wanted, even proud. And that terrified me more than anything else. By the end of the week, I thought maybe things would calm down. Maybe she'd get bored of guarding a human with the muscle tone of a wet noodle and move on. Instead, it escalated. Word had reached her clan. And they wanted proof. I walked into the mess to find half a dozen elders waiting for me, draped in ceremonial sashes, tails twitching in anticipation. My feline shadow stood beside me, radiating smugness. One elder barked something that the translator rendered into, "Show us the bond of the tailmate." I nearly choked on my protein bar. There is no bond. It was an accident. The elder hissed laughter. Accidents do not exist. Only choices and consequences. Your hands chose. Your tailmate accepted. Now prove yourself. I shot her a look that screamed help. She only purred, clearly enjoying the spectacle. Prove myself? To what? A jury of alien cats who thought brushing a tail was second base. Apparently yes. They demanded challenges. And not the kind I'd win at. The first was a drinking contest. They shoved a mug of what looked like curdled milk into my hands. The smell alone could strip paint. Everyone stared. I pinched my nose and drank. It tasted like socks soaked in vinegar. My eyes watered. My stomach threatened rebellion. But I slammed the mug down and croaked. Another? Cheers erupted. My tailmate purred louder. The elders exchanged approving glances. Next, they made me chase something across the floor. At first, I thought it was a joke. A holographic mouse zipped through the hall, and the elder announced, "Catch it, prove your reflexes." I wanted to crawl into a hole. But then I thought of the alternative, humiliating myself in front of an entire species and proving her wrong. So I dove after it. On hands and knees. Through chairs and under tables. To the roaring laughter of both humans and felines alike. When I finally snatched the little rodent hologram, I held it up like a trophy, panting, drenched in sweat. My tailmate beamed at me as if I'd just slain a dragon. See? He is cunning. The third challenge nearly broke me. A ritual of acceptance involving a circle of ancient grandmothers who licked the cheeks of new mates. I stood frozen as 3 gray-furred elders descended, rasping tongues dragging across my face while the entire crowd cheered. Somewhere deep inside, my dignity packed its bags and left. But apparently, this was the final proof. Because after the ordeal, the elders stood and declared, "The bond is real. The human is worthy." Worthy? I wanted a shower, a nap, and maybe a lobotomy to forget what just happened. Instead, I was paraded like some prize, my tailmate practically glowing. She marched beside me, tail wrapped firmly around my arm, announcing to anyone within earshot, "My human has proven himself." I whispered, "I proved I'm insane." She ignored me, eyes shining with pride. Yet, somewhere in the chaos, something shifted. Watching her face light up when I stumbled through their rituals, when I refused to quit even while gagging on alien dairy or crawling after a holographic rodent, it did something to me. Maybe she was ridiculous. Maybe the whole culture was absurd. But she believed in me. And for once, someone actually thought I was worth fighting for. That night, after the endless congratulations, I found myself sitting alone with her. She was quieter than usual, the purr gone, ears tilted back. I asked, "What's wrong?" "You won. You got your tailmate circus." Her eyes softened. "I fear you still think of leaving." I froze. The blunt honesty cut deeper than any claws. "Look, I didn't plan this. I didn't ask for it." She nodded slowly. "I know. But I also know how humans look at freedom. You want the option to run. And I cannot run anymore." For once, she looked vulnerable. The unstoppable, tail-wrapping warrior seemed small, afraid I'd slip away. I should have laughed it off. I should have said it was all a mistake, reset the boundaries, reclaimed my life. But the words died in my throat. Because the truth was, I didn't want to see her look at me like that again. I muttered, "Maybe I'm not sure what I want yet." Her tail coiled lightly around my wrist, not tight this time, just resting there like a question mark. "Then I will wait. But do not lie. Your heart already knows." I looked away, heat crawling up my neck. Was I actually falling for this madness? For her? The outpost was buzzing with gossip. Humans whispered nicknames behind my back: Mr. Tailmate, Groom of the Galaxy, Fur Magnet. Felines gave respectful nods whenever I passed, as if I'd conquered something unimaginable. My reputation had mutated overnight from invisible medic to unwilling celebrity. And through it all, she never left my side. Sometimes it felt suffocating. Sometimes it felt infuriating. But sometimes, just sometimes, it felt like the safest place I'd ever been. When I caught myself laughing at her quirks instead of rolling my eyes, when I realized I was sleeping better with her tail wrapped around me than I ever had alone, when I started looking forward to her questions even when they made me want to bash my head against the wall, those were the moments that scared me most. Because it meant the bond wasn't just her fantasy anymore. It was becoming mine too. The gossip storm didn't fade. If anything, it intensified. Every time I walked down the corridor, someone was smirking, nudging their neighbor, or whispering about the human who brushed the wrong tail and ended up engaged. The outpost commander called me into her office once just to ask, deadpan, "Are you aware you've triggered an interspecies marital precedent?" I nearly bit my tongue in half trying not to laugh. Meanwhile, my so-called accidental partner behaved as if she had officially won the universe's greatest prize. She strutted beside me everywhere, her tail snug around my arm like a leash I never asked for. She'd glare at anyone who dared come within 2 meters, and once even growled at the vending machine when it beeped too close to me. I pointed out this was insane. She countered with, "It looked predatory." Her possessiveness should have annoyed me, maybe even scared me. But instead, it became the punchline of my days. When she snarled at a human technician for patting me on the back, I laughed so hard I nearly fell over. When she shoved her way into my quarters and redecorated with what she called proper mate bedding, which apparently meant covering my bunk with fur-lined blankets, I wanted to complain. Instead, I found myself sleeping better than I had in years. Still, I clung to the illusion that I was in control. That I could end this whenever I wanted. That illusion shattered one night when she leaned close during one of her endless rants about the clan's traditions. Her whiskers brushed my cheek. I froze. She whispered, "You smell like home." No amount of sarcasm could shield me from that. The line was simple, almost silly. But it hit like a plasma blast. For years I'd been a medic patching up strangers in places that weren't mine. I didn't have a home. And suddenly, with her, I wasn't sure if that was still true. She noticed my silence and smirked. "See? Your heart agrees." I wanted to deny it. I wanted to laugh it off. But my voice betrayed me when I muttered, "Maybe it does." After that, everything changed. Not overnight, not with fireworks or grand declarations, but in small, ridiculous ways. She started stealing my rations because a mate provides. I started fixing her armor because someone has to keep you from walking into battles half-dressed. She mocked my clumsy reflexes. I teased her about overfluffed fur. We bickered. We joked. And somewhere between the banter and the territorial glares, something undeniably real grew. The outpost's crew treated us like the galaxy's strangest sitcom. Humans laughed at my predicament, whispering innuendos about brabbing tail. Felines treated me with exaggerated respect, as if I'd mastered some ancient art of seduction by accident. Every misunderstanding turned into comedy fuel. One time, I asked her to give me some space. She took it literally and cleared the entire mess hall, leaving me sitting alone at a table surrounded by terrified soldiers. I couldn't stop laughing for an hour. Yet even through the absurdity, there was an edge of sincerity. She wasn't just clinging out of pride or ritual. She was clinging because, to her, I had crossed a line that bound two lives together. And for all my jokes and resistance, I had stopped wanting her to let go. The real test came when a raiding party hit the outpost. Sirens blared, corridors shook, and chaos erupted. I rushed to the medbay, my instincts driving me toward the wounded. She followed, claws out, daring anyone to come near. When one of the attackers broke through, I thought my life was seconds from ending. She proved me wrong. She tore through them like lightning wrapped in fur, shielding me with a ferocity that turned my stomach with equal parts fear and awe. Afterward, covered in blood and shaking, she crouched beside me. "Now you see why I will not leave. My claws are yours. My life is yours." I should have pushed her away. Should have told her this was madness. Instead, I cupped her face with trembling hands and whispered, "And mine is yours." She purred so loudly the medbay lights rattled. From that moment, there was no going back. The elders stopped questioning. The humans stopped joking. Even I stopped pretending. We weren't an accident anymore. We were a bond, messy, mismatched, ridiculous, and real. People still laughed at us, of course. They laughed when she carried my trays in the mess hall. They laughed when she threatened vending machines. They laughed when I muttered about losing my privacy. But underneath the laughter, there was respect. Because in a galaxy full of warlords and predators, a human medic and a feline soldier had managed to find something stubborn and unshakable. The irony wasn't lost on me. I brushed her tail by mistake. But the mistake became a choice. A choice that turned into a bond. A bond that turned into a story. And a story that, apparently, everyone in the outpost would be repeating for years, always with the same punchline. "Never brush what you can't handle." And every time I heard it, I laughed. Because they were right. I couldn't handle her. But maybe that was exactly why I needed her.